Okay, so you want to be an influencer. Ring light, decent camera, a face people don't hate looking at. Post consistently, watch the followers climb, wait for the brand deals to roll in. Simple, right? Here's the thing. Somewhere between 100,000 people right now believe this is a viable career path, and the overwhelming majority of them are going to lose money doing it. Not break even. Lose money. And the wild part isn't that influencing is hard. It's that the math was never actually broken. Most people who fail at this weren't bad at making content. They were bad at running a business because that's secretly what this always was. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how influencer income actually works, where the real money hides, why some creators with tiny audiences make more than creators with millions of followers, and why the entire system is quietly designed to make almost everyone feel like they're one video away from making it forever without ever actually getting there. Let's start with the illusion, because the illusion is the whole business model. When you look at an influencer, you're looking at the output. The finished reel, the polished thumbnail, the confident voiceover. What you're not looking at is the input. And the input, it turns out, is brutal. Industry surveys have put the number of hours a full-time creator spends per week somewhere north of 40. And that's before you count editing, which for a single 10-minute video can eat anywhere from 6 to 20 hours depending on how good you want it to look. So before a single dollar shows up, you've already spent the equivalent of a full-time job. Unpaid, on spec, betting that the algorithm notices. And here's where it gets interesting, because influencing isn't really one business. It's 3 businesses stacked on top of each other, and almost nobody separates them in their head, which is exactly how they get into trouble. Business number 1 is attention. That's the content itself, the follower count, the views. This is the business everyone thinks they're in. Business number 2 is trust. This is the part that actually generates revenue, because trust is what a brand is paying for when they sponsor you. They're not paying for your FaceTime. They're renting your audience's belief that you wouldn't recommend garbage. And business number 3, the one almost nobody talks about, is inventory risk. The moment you launch a product, a course, a clothing line, you've stopped being a media company and become a logistics company wearing a media company's clothes. Most failed influencers only ever built business number 1. They stacked attention and assumed the other 2 would just appear. They don't. So let's talk about how the money is actually supposed to flow in, because on paper it looks incredible. Start with the ad revenue itself, the platform payouts. On YouTube, the number people love to throw around is somewhere between $2 and $10 per thousand views, depending on niche, audience location, and time of year. Finance and business content, incidentally, tends to sit at the top of that range, which is part of why you're watching a video shaped exactly like this one. On TikTok and Instagram, direct payouts are far smaller, sometimes fractions of a cent per view, which is why creators there depend almost entirely on brand deals instead. Now here's the number that should stop you. A creator with 1 million followers on Instagram, using fairly standard industry benchmarks, might see engagement rates as low as 1 to 3%. That means out of 1 million people who technically follow you, maybe 15 to 30,000 actually see, like, or comment on any given post. Brands know this, which is why the headline follower count, the number that looks so impressive on a profile, is increasingly treated by advertisers as a vanity metric rather than a pricing metric. Think of it like a stadium. You can sell 100,000 seats, but if the stadium is only a third full on game day, the beer vendors don't care how many tickets you claim to sell. They care how many people actually showed up thirsty. This is why the real currency in this economy isn't followers. It's something called the engaged CPM, and it's why a creator with 50,000 deeply loyal subscribers in a specific niche, say home espresso setups or personal finance for nurses, can often out-earn a creator with 2 million followers posting generic lifestyle content. Specificity sells. Breadth just impresses your relatives. Brand deals are where the real money supposedly lives, and the rates can look staggering from the outside. Mid-tier creators, somewhere in the 100,000 to 500,000 follower range, can command anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 per sponsored post, depending on niche and platform. Creators at the very top, the ones with tens of millions of followers, have been reported charging 6 figures for a single integration. But here's the part the highlight reel never shows you. Brand deals are inconsistent by design. Advertisers run campaigns in bursts, tied to product launches and quarterly budgets, which means a creator's income doesn't look like a steady paycheck. It looks like a heart monitor. Big spike in March when 3 brands launch spring campaigns at once, then a flat line in June when everyone's budget resets. Multiply that unpredictability across an entire career and you get why so many creators, even successful ones, describe the experience as financially terrifying despite looking, from the outside, like they're thriving. Now let's talk about costs, because this is the part almost nobody accounts for until it's too late. Equipment isn't the real expense anymore. A decent camera and a laptop can get you shockingly far. The real expense is editing, and editing is either your time or your money, and eventually it becomes both. A creator who starts editing their own videos to save cash will, within a year or two of growth, be spending 20 or 30 hours a week just moving clips around a timeline. At that point, hiring an editor isn't a luxury, it's a survival decision, and editors for a single long-form video can run anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s, depending on complexity and turnaround time. Then there's the invisible tax nobody warns you about: content that flops. Not every video hits. Industry data on short-form platforms suggests the overwhelming majority of posts underperform relative to a creator's average, and only a small handful of outlier posts drive most of the growth in any given month. That means you're essentially running a content casino of your own, placing dozens of small bets, most of which lose, hoping one goes big enough to cover the rest. The difference is a casino has house odds locked in its favor. A creator is betting against an algorithm that changes its rules without telling anyone. And this is where we get to why some creators fail despite the math technically working in their favor. Imagine 2 creators. Creator A has 200,000 followers and treats every video like content marketing for a business they haven't built yet. Creator B has 40,000 followers and already sells a $50 digital product to that same audience. Creator A is popular. Creator B is profitable. And popularity on its own doesn't pay rent. The failed influencer, the one this video is actually about, is almost always Creator A. They chase the vanity metric because it's visible and validating. Follower count going up feels like winning. But followers are a leading indicator of attention, not revenue. Revenue requires converting that attention into either advertiser trust or a direct transaction, and that conversion step is where the vast majority of creators simply never build the machinery. Here's a metaphor that makes this click. Growing an audience is like filling a bathtub. Every follower is a gallon of water going in. Looks great, tub's filling up, feels productive. But if you never install a drain, meaning a product, a service, an actual monetization funnel, all that water just sits there. It doesn't turn into anything. Meanwhile, the tub itself, meaning your time and energy, has a leak because burnout is real, and creators who post daily for 18 months straight without a revenue system underneath them are running a losing race against their own exhaustion. There's also a brutal structural reason so many creators plateau and then collapse, and it's platform dependency. When your entire income sits on top of one algorithm you don't control, you're not running a business, you're renting an apartment from a landlord who can change the rent, the rules, or evict you with zero notice. Multiple platforms have shifted their algorithms in ways that tanked previously reliable creators' reach almost overnight, and because most creators never diversified into an own channel, an email list, a paid community, something the platform can't touch, that algorithm shift didn't just dent their income. It deleted it. Let's talk numbers on the failure side because they're sobering. A large share of people who attempt to monetize content across surveyed creator populations report earning under a few $100s a month, even after a year or more of consistent posting. And a meaningful percentage of full-time creators report earning below minimum wage once you actually divide their income by the hours worked. This isn't a story about lazy people failing to hustle. It's a story about a genuinely difficult, saturated, low-margin creative labor market being marketed to millions of people as a shortcut to freedom. So who actually wins in this economy? The creators who survive long-term almost always do 3 things the failed ones skip. First, they niche down hard because a specific, loyal audience monetizes far more efficiently than a broad, indifferent one. Second, they build at least one owned asset outside the platform, a newsletter, a paid community, a product, something that generates revenue even if the algorithm turns on them tomorrow. And third, and this is the one that sounds almost too simple, they treat the whole thing like a business from day one, tracking margins, understanding their true cost per video, negotiating brand deals instead of accepting the first number offered. Because here's the uncomfortable truth underneath all of this. Being an influencer was never really the job. The job was always building a small media company with all the unglamorous parts that implies cash flow management, diversified revenue, customer retention, except the customer is your audience and the product at first is just you. And that's the real economics of a failed influencer. Not a lack of talent, not bad luck. A business with real revenue potential, run without a business plan by someone who was told over and over that all they needed was to go viral.